What I can't understand is that these ICE raids are happening in workplaces instead of prisons, jails, detention centers. Why are you targeting a workplace where someone is actually working instead of going where all the criminals are at?
Hello guys, and welcome back to our channel. I welcome you to today's discussion on a crisis that's really striking fear in the hearts of immigrant communities across the country. Now, the recent escalation on ICE raids and detentions has left many on the edge, wondering where and when agents will strike next. The alarming reality is that immigration agents are now empowered to enter spaces that were previously considered safe havens. Schools, workplaces, and even churches are no longer off limits to ICE. Now, the consequences of this new reality are dire. Imagine the trauma and terror of witnessing a friend or family member being detained at school. The emotional toll on children in particular cannot be overstated. Now, as we explore this issue, we'll hear from different individuals who are sounding the alarm about the devastating impact of these raids. We'll also discuss the ripple effects on education as immigrant children and children of immigrants may be forced to stay home from school, fearing detention or separation from their loved ones. The erosion of trust in institutions and the chilling effect on entire communities are just the beginning. So with that said, let's take a look at these videos. I will be right back.
I know a lot of students are worried about next week. They're worried about their families, they're worried about their friends, they're worried for themselves, and a lot of us teachers are also worried for our students. What many people don't know is that in 1982, there was a Supreme Court hearing called Plyler versus Doe. This upheld the 14th Amendment that regardless of nation of origin, regardless of legal status, regardless of race, children are entitled to a free and public education because they are human and thus afforded the protections under the 14th Amendment. This creates schools as a sensitive area. ICE is not allowed on school property or in a school building without a warrant signed by a judge. The only other way that they can come on school property if there's extenuating circumstances and a threat of immediate danger nearby. Will the incoming administration try to curtsy around that? I'm pretty sure they will. But if you're a student and you're scared, your superintendents, your principals, and your teachers have been made aware of protocols. It is our job to primarily protect the safety of the school and the learning environment. Myself and every teacher that I know takes that very seriously. Anything that disrupts that is not welcome. Full stop. And if you're a student and you see an ICE agent near your school property, on your school property, or in your school, you tell a staff member right away. And if an ICE agent tries to talk to you, you stay silent. No matter what lies they try to tell you, because law enforcement is allowed to lie to citizens. No matter how nice they seem to be, you stay silent. The only thing that should come out of your mouth is, I want to talk to my mom, I want my principal in here, or get me a lawyer. And that's it.
Immigration agents can now enter places they couldn't have entered before to detain people. Now they can go into schools, churches, hospitals. There's no safe place now. And just seeing this play in real time is just really scary. It's really sad. And my heart goes out to anybody that's affected by this. But at least there's a little bit of good news. So the app, Consul App Contigo, that the Mexican government did for the Mexican citizens, where you can set, emergency contacts. And if you get detained, then it sends an alert to your emergency contact. It sends an alert to the Mexican consulate nearby. This morning, it was only available to Android. Now it's available to Apple users as well. And just as a reminder, if immigration is near you, you don't have to talk. You have the right to remain silent. But yeah, let's continue to share this information to everybody so we can help each other out. We can talk about it in the comments. Just let's be respectful. And if this information doesn't pertain to you and you don't agree with it, that's okay. You don't really have to comment.
Do you think that the undocumented immigrants that were detained in Bakersfield, California a week or so ago would have gone to work if they knew that these immigration raids were going to happen on that day? No, I don't think they would. We already know when the ICE immigration raids are going to happen here in Chicago. They've given us a time frame. Now, I don't trust the mass media. They're saying that it's going to begin Tuesday, January 21st. Originally, I had heard that these ICE raids in Chicago were going to begin on Trump's inauguration day, Monday, January 20th. And if anything, Trump's been campaigning on the fact that he would start these massive immigration raids on his first day in office. So plan for it happening on Monday. Now let's talk about Chicago and its responsibility as a sanctuary city. Now, one, do I think that the mayor or any of these representatives are going to do anything to really protect our most vulnerable, undocumented immigrant community here in Chicago? No, I don't think they are. It's all political theater. It really depends on you, me, all of the allies, people that understand that immigrants are what make Chicago, and not just Chicago, but our entire country, what it is today. So what can we be doing? Well, let's disrupt some stuff. How about nobody goes to work this week? Call off sick, everybody. If you own a restaurant and you know that your back end staff are undocumented people, how about you let them take this week off with pay? How about we disrupt Chicago's Restaurant Week? It's supposed to start on Friday. How is Chicago's Restaurant Week going to function if our most vulnerable community members, the undocumented immigrants in this city, don't feel safe? Let's shut it all down. If you're an ally, if you work in the restaurant, the entertainment industry, everybody call off sick if you work in any of these fields that depend on immigrants. And for all those that claim that this is just fear-mongering, no, it's not. We saw what happened in Bakersfield, California. And guess what? They didn't just target undocumented people. They also detained American citizens until they were able to prove that they were American citizens. That's racial profiling. And guess what? I'm praying and advocating for even those people that voted against their interests. So we have a very limited amount of time to get this going, but let's shut Chicago down. Let's protect our most vulnerable members in this city, and let's show the world what a sanctuary city does to protect its community members, its neighbors.
So Trump wants to rescind the policy that prevents ICE agents from going into schools. And I see a lot of people talking about this in terms of like how traumatic that is for kids to either see their parents or themselves or their friends' parents be detained from their school. But I don't see people talking about the other pretty obvious effect of what, if this happens, what it will cause. And that is that immigrant children or children of immigrants will be kept home from school. Those children's access to education will become much harder. I've made my views around the immigration system in the United States pretty well known on this app, but I really don't understand why anyone would want to punish a child for a decision that they don't make. You don't choose where you're born. You don't choose where your parents move you to. You don't choose where your parents are born. We've seen this before in immigration court in the US where you have 4-year-olds sitting in court by themselves, having to defend themselves in immigration court. Blindly patriotic people in the US love to say, like, well, go to another country and see how well they treat their kids. Babe, the call is coming from inside the house. Hello?
You need to leave Chicago this weekend. This Tuesday, January 21st, Chicago is going to be a target for the mass deportation raids that are due to Trump's new immigration enforcement plans. So if you or someone you know is undocumented or at risk, please know your rights. Please try not to open the door for anyone without a warrant and connect with any local immigration advocacy groups. Stay informed, stay safe, and take care of each other.
The Trump administration will now allow ICE to raid churches, hospitals, and schools. More people need to be talking about the directives and executive orders that Trump has issued in just the last couple days like this one. Please share this video and my other videos as widely as possible to increase awareness, because more people need to know about things like this, because these will have an actual immediate impact on the people in this country. Has directed the agency to use common sense when making these arrests. whatever that means. There actually has been a policy for over 10 years that the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, or ICE, cannot make arrests in sensitive locations like courthouses, schools, and hospitals. Listen, y'all, this is a huge problem, and this sets this country on a very dangerous path. Imagine pictures on national news of ICE agents dragging people out of the hospital. If this is actually allowed, people will not come to the hospital to get medical care for emergency situations like heart attacks, strokes, because they're worried about their immigration status, and people will. This flies in the face of the oath that I have taken as a medical professional to take care of people and provide the best medical care that I possibly can to everybody, regardless of race, the color of people's skin, the religion, the political beliefs, etc. All that doesn't matter. I think this will, and I really hope that it does, get challenged in the courts as, I don't know, a violation of basic human rights. And I would like to think that even the most hardcore Trump supporters and people that support his immigration policy, even they would have the humanity to think that this is wrong. Arresting people at hospitals that are there to get medical care is wrong. This is going to cause a lot of problems. And listen, they're not going anywhere. You want to arrest them, at least wait until they get better.
If you see an immigration truck or an immigration agent, what you're going to do is yell as loud as you possibly can, La Migra. And I mean at the top of your lungs. Make sure everyone around you can hear it. If there's any stores in the area, any restaurants, go in there and say, La Migra. Let them know that immigration is there. If an ICE agent comes up to you, do not confirm or deny anything. You have no idea who's an immigrant. You don't know anyone's legal status. Do not speculate either. If an ICE agent tries to talk to you, say, I'm sorry, I don't know, I can't help you. Keep it moving. You do not owe them anything. Did you see something? No, you didn't. You didn't see anything. ICE agent comes to your door and nicely asks you, have you seen your neighbor? Do you know who this neighbor is? No, you don't. You have no clue. Actually, you've never even been in the street. Please pass this along. You have no idea who this can help.
Trump's plan for mass deportation starts today, with ICE raids happening in Chicago. This week, there will also be ICE raids in New York City, Washington, D.C., Boston, San Antonio, Denver, and Miami. Here are some things that you need to know to stay protected. For now, ICE is most likely to enter businesses. So let's say ICE comes to the place where you work. What are you gonna do? Do not sign anything under any circumstances. You are going to assert two rights: the right to remain silent, make sure to actually say that, and a right to call your attorney. Every immigrant should have an immigration plan, which should include memorizing your immigration attorney's number. If you don't understand what they're saying, what they're asking you, and even if you do, just keep asserting those two rights. Don't say anything else. Here's what's super important. There's a new act that's going to get passed called the Lakeland-Riley Act. Innocent until proven guilty, doesn't exist. You can be charged for a crime and be immediately deported even if you're not proven guilty. So there is a huge incentive for ICE officers to charge you for crime. No matter what, no matter how aggressive they are being, do not be aggressive back. Do not resist. Do not give them any reason to charge you with a crime. If someone is there that can film the interaction between you and ICE, even better, so that there is evidence that you are not being aggressive. And now a little disclaimer, because I am Latina and I am scared about this government. I am not an undocumented immigrant. I am a US citizen. I'm going to post the same video in Spanish. Let me know if you have any questions.
Waking up to news that mass deportation started today, so if you're an immigrant, please know that you have the right and share this to everyone you know so everyone's aware. You have the right to remain silent. If ICE knocks on your door, you don't have to answer it. Do not consent to any searches if they do not have a warrant signed by a judge. You don't even have the right to be in your property, so please remain silent. Do not sign any documents, especially if you do not understand. If you are in public and ICE stops you, please remain silent. You do not have to disclose your immigration status. They do not have the right to search your belongings or your bag without a warrant. You do not have to answer their questions. Please do not give them information that they can use against you. Share this information to people that you know, your friends, your family, especially if they are undocumented immigrants. Please stay on the lookout. Look up for each other. If you spot ICE in your area, share to keep your community informed. And to my fellow immigrants, I know this is a scary time, that there are community and resources that can help you. Know your rights and please stay strong.
Okay, guys, this is for my immigrant community. I need you to listen up and I need you to take notes if you have to, okay? It is time to stay prepared and protected whether you are undocumented, you are a DACA recipient, green card holder, or even a U.S. citizen. You need to take the following steps so in case you get stopped by ICE. Very important. Number one, you need to know your rights, okay? If approached by ICE, remember you have the right to remain silent and refuse entry without a warrant. They're coming to your home. They don't have a warrant. They can't come in. Okay, very, very important. Have a go bag ready to go with important documents like your passport, your ID, work permits, birth certificate, and a list of emergency contacts. If you take medication, make sure you have a list of medications and have a little bit of cash. Make sure that not only do you do this for you, but for your children. Make sure that you pack their documents as well. Okay, especially their birth certificate. Secure your legal status. Consult an immigration attorney. Get educated, especially if you're undergoing renewals, if you have an application process, or to get advice. Programs like DACA or TPS, they change continuously and they change fast. So make sure you stay in the know for any updates or change it. Make sure to get community support. Connect with your local immigrant organization for resources, legal clinics, they do exist, and advocacy. There are apps now for different countries that are available. I'll do a second video about that. Have an emergency plan. Discuss what to do with your family members if someone is detained, and write it down. Let me say this is not only for immigrant people, this is for all Black and brown folks, including people born in the U.S. If you're African American, start walking around with your birth certificate. If you're Puerto Rican, start walking around with your birth certificate. My Cuban Americans, my Mexican, everybody. If you're Black and brown, honey, start walking around with your birth certificate if you are a U.S. citizen, because you don't want to have to deal with the burden of proof. I'm going to do a second video about the Mexican app that they just launched that works on Androids. So stay tuned. Make sure you follow for more and stay vigilant. All right. Make sure you take notes. If you have to save this video, go ahead and do so you can share it with your family and friends. And I wish you the very best, and let's stay connected and help one another.
Chismosas, I have an updated list on the locations where immigration have been spotted in around the country. As you guys know, I have been putting together a list of different places where people have been sending in tips from. Now, here is the updated list. Now we've added Detroit, Michigan. As some people have said, generally in East LA, San Juan, Capistrano, Massachusetts area. They didn't say specifically where. Westmont, Illinois, Wheeling, Illinois, Buffalo Grove, Illinois, Schaumburg, Illinois, Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, Pacoima, California, Glendale Heights, Illinois, Rockford, Illinois, Orlando, Florida, Appleton, Wisconsin, Lakewood, Colorado, and Durham, North Carolina. Now, I wish that was all. Apparently, there have also been sightings of ICE helicopters in Bakersfield, checkpoints through Irving Park Road in Chicago, Victoria, Texas, St. Paul, Minnesota. Apparently, they targeted and raided a Hispanic store called Supermercado Loma Bonita, and they rounded up a bunch of people. Wow. Next, we have Aurora, Illinois. Apparently, they were rounding up people outside of Ross stores. Then we have Tumwater, Washington, Olathe, Kansas. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Charlotte, North Carolina, Greensboro, North Carolina, Goldsboro, North Carolina, Winston-Salem, Hartford, Connecticut, Queens, New York, Long Beach, California. And that's all the updates we have right now. In the meantime, chismosas, you guys know what to do. Like and share this with anybody you think will benefit from this, and keep sending in tips because I just keep updating this.
Now, just like I've already said and we've heard from the videos, U.S. immigration authorities will be able to arrest migrants at schools, churches, and hospitals after the Trump administration overturned policies banning immigration enforcement from so-called sensitive areas. Now, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and Customs and Border Protection had been restricted from doing so for more than a decade. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security, which oversees both agencies, said in a statement, criminals will no longer be able to hide in America's schools and churches to avoid arrest. The Trump administration will not tie the hands of our brave law enforcement and instead trust them to use common sense, the statement said. The directive was one of two issued on Tuesday from Benjamin Huffman, the acting secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. Now, the second directive reinstates with immediate effect so-called expedited removal nationwide. Under this authority, U.S. ICE can quickly deport any undocumented person arrested inside the country who can prove they have been here continuously for more than 2 years. Now, the changes come as Donald Trump's administration executes a major crackdown on immigration in the U.S. The president signed a slew of executive actions on Monday that included cutting off access on an app that facilitated the entry of hundreds of thousands of people, as well as suspending the refugee system and promoting greater cooperation between ICE and local and state governments. Now, administration officials vowed to immediately begin rounding up people in the U.S. illegally as part of the president's promise to carry out mass deportations. Trump's border Caesar Tom Homan said in an interview late on Monday that immigration agents would fan out across the United States on Tuesday to arrest and deport undocumented people. Now, he did not say where the raids would take place. They are going to do it throughout the country. We have officers throughout the country, and every ICE officer is going to be out there and enforce the law starting tomorrow morning, Homan said. Advocates warned that the Trump administration's move to allow arrests at sensitive locations would have harmful effects. Now, this action could have devastating consequences for immigrant families and their children, including U.S. citizen children, deterring them from receiving medical attention, seeking out disaster relief, attending school, and carrying out everyday activities, the Center for Law and Social Policy said in a statement. Should ICE presence near such locations become more common, the likelihood also increases that children could witness a parent's detention, arrest, or other encounters with ICE agents, the organization said. Now, earlier on Tuesday, during an inaugural prayer service sermon, the Episcopal Bishop of Washington appealed directly to Trump to have mercy upon immigrants and LGBTQ+ people. Now, the ICE guidance dates back to 2011. Customs and Border Protection issued similar guidance in 2013. Trump has made cracking down on immigration a top priority, just as he did during his first term in the White House from 2017 to 2021. He has often portrayed his efforts as unleashing the ability of ICE agents and others in immigration enforcement from Biden-era guidelines that he said restricted their efforts to find and remove people who no longer have the authority to remain in the country. Now, the announcement Tuesday had been expected as Trump works to deliver on his campaign promise to carry out mass deportations of anyone in the illegally illegally. But it was still jarring for advocates who have argued that raising the prospect of deportation at churches, schools, or hospitals can prevent migrants from getting medical attention or allowing their children to attend schools. Now, this action could have devastating consequences for immigrant families and their children. Now, under the sensitive locations guidance, officers were generally required to get approval for any enforcement operations at those locations, although exceptions were allowed for things like national security. Now, Trump kept the guidance on safety on sensitive locations in place during his first administration, although he did remove similar guidance that restricted immigration enforcement at courthouses. Now, that courthouse guidance was put in place once again during the Biden administration, which also issued its own update to the sensitive locations guidance, limiting where ICE and CBP officers could carry out immigration enforcement. Many schools around the country have been preparing for just this eventuality by reaching out to immigrant families and local law enforcement. In California, officials have offered guidance to schools on state law limiting local participation in immigration enforcement. Our policy is clear and strong that immigration enforcement is not allowed on our campuses unless forced through a valid court order, said Diana Diaz, spokeswoman for the Fresno Unified School District, one of the largest in California. We've been in communication with local law enforcement who has assured us that they will not be supporting immigration enforcement across any of our schools. Now, a resolution passed by Chicago Public Schools Board of Education in November said schools would not assist ICE in enforcing immigration law. Agents would not be allowed into schools without a criminal warrant, it said. Over the years, dozens of migrants have sought sanctuary in churches for immigration-related reasons, sometimes staying for weeks at a time to evade ICE capture. Now, a 2018 story by the Associated Press detailed how since 2014, at least 70 publicly known cases have emerged of people seeking sanctuary in churches for immigration-related reasons. And according to Church World Service, a New York organization that supports the sanctuary effort, of those, 51 came up since Trump took office in January 2017 and pledged a harder line on immigration. Now, Rev. K. Kappa, senior pastor of St. Paul and St. Andrew United Methodist Church in New York City, said he felt it was important several days ago to put up a sign informing ICE and Homeland Security they were not permitted inside the church. It's something that we've been involved with for a long time, he said. It's part of our religious mission to reach out and provide a place of safety to new arrivals and other people, regardless of their status. Now, given the administration's policy change, Papa said his church will make it clear to officers that without a warrant, they don't have any business on church property. We're a peaceful people. You know what we're going to do? He asked. But we're going to make it clear to anybody who's in the building who feels threatened by this that they have rights, that they are not required to answer questions, that they are not required without a warrant to produce ID. You know, there's still a rule of law in this country, and we're not Germany in the 30s. We're just not. Now, the reality of mass deportations under the Trump administration is hitting hard and very fast. For those who thought Trump's campaign promises were just rhetoric, the past few months have been a rude awakening. The Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE agency is now empowered to enter spaces previously considered safe havens, schools, workplaces, and even churches. The consequences of this new reality are very, very dire. But the expansion of expedited removals, which allows for the rapid deportation of individuals with due process, is a key component of the Trump administration's mass deportation plan. Now, this policy targets immigrants nationwide who cannot prove they have been in the country continuously for 2 years or more. We have finally come to the end of the video, but what do our viewers have to say? Share your thoughts, your views, your contributions in the comment section, and let's have a conversation there. Thank you for always watching, and see you in our next video as we bring you another video.